We've all had nasty neighbors, but an entire town? Think how annoyed you get when just one person honks at you. Now imagine all your neighbors driving by sitting on that horn 24/7. Are they tormenting one family, or did that family wear out its welcome? We want you to decide. Here's Paula Ferris.
Of all the homes in Hubbard, Ohio, it might be the last one you'd expect folks to fight over. But this vacant house on East Liberty Street is the hottest property since good old Nehemiah Hubbard founded the town 200 years ago. Oh, what a fuss over a little fixer-upper.
This all started in 2007 over a simple real estate deal, correct?
Right. It was the property next door here.
Meet Rick and Cindy Kurlich, longtime Hubbard residents. They say all they wanted was to buy the property next door. The only problem? It wasn't for sale. These folks, John and Marlene Clementi, had inherited half the house. The other half was tied up in court. But Rick Kurlich tried to buy it anyway, even though it had been in the Clementi family for generations.
I says, well, you're not getting my land. And I said, that's not right. It's my family since 1922. How could you do that?
The Clement family called me up and they told me to take my bid off the table. And if I didn't take my bid off the table, we'd be bitter enemies for life.
Rick never got the house, but he says he's still paying for what he did. As the town fire chief, Clementi had lots of friends, and suddenly Rick and Cindy say it seemed like every single one of them was driving by honking the horn. And it wasn't to say hello.
The Clement family conspired together to organize a horn-blowing campaign against us. That's really what this is all about.
Ask not for whom the horn blows, it blows for Rick and Cindy Kurlich.
In the beginning, it was 100 times a day.
100 times a day?
100.
So they began planning their payback. Their house now bristles with expensive surveillance cameras. As we were looking them over, just watch what happened.
The last camera is down here on the tree.
Okay. Oh, somebody just honked their horn. Did you hear that?
Yeah, it's never
Was that
ending.
A friendly honk?
Probably not.
Okay.
Rick says his ear is now finally attuned.
You can tell an import horn from a domestic horn.
Who are these horn blowers? Not just people in the town, but people who work for the town. Firefighters, including some from the department John Clementi ran, and police. Here's one of Hubbard Township's finest, not serving, not protecting, just honking. It's enough to wake the dead. This hearse caught 10 times. And would you look at this? The horn on the bus goes. An education for Hubbard's next generation of horn blowers. Rick and Cindy renamed their dining room the evidence room.
Wow.
There's more in the basement.
There's hundreds and hundreds of photographs and discs and stuff here.
You're like a detective. So when did people start blowing the horns? Were you recruiting people, telling them to get this guy out of town?
That's what he tells everybody.
John says he can explain everything. His son's girlfriend and some of her friends would occasionally blow the horn, but he says that was just their way of saying goodbye.
When they would leave the house, the girls would toot the horn just to let them know they're leaving.
A little toot? Yeah, Rick says, like this car leaving the Clementi's driveway at 4 in the morning.
Does the city of Hubbard have a horn blowing epidemic?
An epidemic? No. We do have a problem in one particular area.
We patrolled around town with the police chief, Jim Tafe.
At some point, people began blowing horns, but it became clear at another point that on occasion it was used to harass the person that lived there.
Kurlich began taking horn blowers to court. He says he got orders of protection against more than a dozen people, and he didn't stop there. He started suing. Somebody beeps, Rick sues. Beep, sue. At the Trumbull County Courthouse, the legal paperwork is piling up. Rick is now suing no fewer than 40 alleged hornblowers, including the Clementis.
This isn't my job, and I don't want to do this, and I'm sad that I have to.
Kurlich versus everybody.
It seems like the town of Hubbard is against the Kurliches, and everybody's in on it now.
Why wouldn't you be against him?
If you beep your horn one time, he'll take you to court. Just a regular beep.
Does the city of Hubbard want the Kurliches to leave?
I believe so.
Do you think you've made matters worse?
We don't know how else to stop it.
We knew it was a long shot, but we asked both sides if they would consider mediation.
We would love it for it to stop, but how do you get everybody in Hubbard to come to a meeting and say stop?
Now there's a thought, get everybody in Hubbard to come to a meeting.
I don't know.
Oh yeah, Rick, that's just what we're gonna do. It's the 2020 Barbecue Peace Summit. But will the warring parties or anyone else bother to show up?
It's the thing nightmares are made of.
You know, it's so creepy that I decided to have a bolt put on the door, and I'm having my son sleep in here with me.
Creepy only begins to describe it.
It's like an alternate reality, really.
When she'd get home from work, Fasika Tafara started noticing things out of place in her home.
They were just all open, but what was weird is, so for example, they were open like this, but they were all at the same level.
First, the windows, then lights turned on. Her cabinets pulled out.
It's intended to let me know that somebody has been here, essentially, right? So all of the drawers have been pulled out. And
something strange every single day for almost the past month. She finally realized someone has been coming inside.
Are people following me? And then I started to wonder also, well, how do they know when I'm here and when I'm not here?
Then Tafara found this small camera in her 11-year-old son's bedroom. So she took to the internet and started digging. What she found? Something called community or gang stalking. It's an eerie practice aimed at your psyche to make you almost feel like you're going crazy.
It's spooky, and my understanding is that if this is in fact what it is, it can go on for years, you know.
Only you're not. Tafara left her phone recording audio at her house. Listen, you can hear what sounds like people rummaging around. On one, you can hear what sounds like drilling.
So this hole here has been cut into the attic space.
Tafara says detectives have been to the house.
Kind of like, you know, if it happens again, call us, but there's not much we can do.
Something that makes this even more terrifying.
Here on 5 News, we've told you about different kinds of bullying that goes down in schools.
That's right, but bullying doesn't just affect children, it can affect us adults as well. Aaron McPherson talked to a group of people today who shared their story. Aaron, what did these people tell you?
I met 3 people today who are victims of adult bullying, or as they refer to it, organized stalking. Two of them are from Pennsylvania, but were in the area for their support group, which helps them get through their daily struggles of people constantly putting them down.
We feel as though there is a great abuse going on, not only in our country, but across the world. This is a global problem.
John and Terry are friends from Pennsylvania who have been living in fear for years.
I was inundated with harassment, just absolutely inundated with it. I would be told what I did that day, what I did the day before, where I went, what I had to eat, what I was wearing currently, where I was sitting in my apartment.
Some of us that are single people that live alone are harassed in the community, the hacking of our electronic devices, computers, phones.
These are just two of the many people in the world who are victims of stalkers and bullying.
It's totally immature. It's like 10-year-old on the school play yard bullying, but yet it's like on steroids with adults, and it goes so much further than that.
People who suffer from this lose money from changing locks, fixing computers, or even moving.
Just a slow takedown of a person's life over time. I had a respectable career, and I was married, and I had a home, I had a car, typical thing, set up, and now I don't have a whole lot left in the world.
Terry and John told us they have gone to the police with this information, but apparently they lack the evidence needed for a case.
I actually took the computer and threw it in the dumpster, which is a terrible thing to do because the hard drive and everything was in there, and I had tons and tons and tons of things on there that probably would have been helpful.
We are trying to gather evidence that we can, that things are going on.
So why do people do this, and what can be done?
It seems to me that they enjoy being a part of this. We need laws to be passed. We need laws to be upheld. We need ethics to come back into our lives.
Luckily, Terry and John have found support groups that help them get through day-to-day life.
Important to have that connection with other people going through this.
Can't describe what it would be like, what it has been like to talk to somebody who understands this, and then to find out there's people all around the country that are going through this, and I've made so many friends now because of this, and it's been the difference between being able to keep going and not.
Terry and John said hopefully by coming forward, people will be more aware of this problem. For 5 News, I'm Erin McPherson.
sell her precious body for a small piece of paper. It carries a lot of weight. More than great almighty dollar. Talk about I don't know that money is the root of all evil. Do funny things to some people. Give me a nickel, brother, can you spare?
Okay, so I want to give people a clear picture of the mimic effect. Now, I've been experiencing gang stalking for almost 3 years, and the mimic effect is one of the strangest things I've ever seen. People can be getting mimicked and not even know they're mimicked, or they be getting mimicked in dozens of ways and not know what's happening to them. Then when they approach people and let them know what's going on, the first thing that's going to come up is people are going to say, oh, you must be mentally ill, or you must be a drug user, or you must be confused, or you must be leading me on. Like, are you lying? Is this a joke or something like that? Okay, so the individuals who get asked to do assignments, from what I've seen, these can be everyday people. It could be a homeless person in an alley. It can be somebody you live near. It can be somebody at your workplace. It could be somebody that you encounter sometimes out in the world. You don't really know them. You just know the same sorts of people, and every time you come around, they come around, that sort of thing. There's a lot of different people who do it. It can be like cab drivers. It can be somebody who works at like Pizza Hut. It can be somebody who works at Domino's. It could be somebody who works at Burger King. It can be like when you go into a restaurant, this sorts of thing can happen. From my perception of gang stalking, they get asked to do the assignment. Whether it comes in through a technology, through an app, through somebody contacts them on Facebook, they get some sort of text message, or somebody comes to them in person, or their own boss, or their husband or wife, or somebody they're close to, a child, their children, maybe it's an older adult, and their son comes in and says, hey, wear this shirt, do this. So these people are asked to do this assignment. 9 times out of 10, they don't know who you are. They're not even sure what's going on. They may have never even heard of gang stalking. Gang stalking is irrelevant at this point. They're just asked, this is what we want you to do. Wear this color shirt and go stand right there. And when this guy walks by, make a bodily gesture or say something specific, or wait till this other person comes in and then walk away. So wear a red shirt, and then when the guy with the black shirt comes near, then walk away. That's their assignment. And the detail of their assignment depends on who you are as a person. So the gang stalking is patterned based on who you are as a person, the nature of the assignment. So a lot of times when people are being gang stalked, they're going to sit there and say, well, what? These people are following me, they're stalking me, and I don't understand what's going on, and I need help, somebody help me. And everybody's going to tell you you're crazy or you're paranoid because of the way you're delivering it. You're saying gang stalking. When people go online, they look up gang stalking, they're looking at, aliens. All this other conspiracy stuff that's floating around the internet is attached to it, and it sort of creates sort of like a web of disinformation. A gang is 3 or more people. It can be 3 old women. 3 old women in a park can be a gang. So that's a gang, 3 old women. So 3 old women are following me around the park, and then they follow me around another area of town. Then I can say I'm being gang stalked. They're all wearing, 3 old women wearing red shirts are following me across town. I can say, no, I'm being gang stalked. But that doesn't mean they know what gang stalking is. They might not know what it is. But the networking of gang stalking created this phenomenon. So I'm experiencing the phenomenon of gang stalking by multiple individuals who are being asked to do these assignments, but a lot of them might not even know what gang stalking even is. So that's a little bit how it works. And so when individuals begin to say, hey, I need help, I'm having an issue when I go to work, I'm feeling uncomfortable, and I don't feel, my work schedule is becoming a problem because I don't feel comfortable going to the workplace, or my marriage with my wife is an issue because she's being asked to do this stuff, or her friends are, and I'm having an issue within the household. Or a college, a university. This happens to people on university campuses, and they say, I'm going into the university, I'm going in to study, I'm a student, and I want to study and I want to learn, but when I go in, different individuals are following me around wearing certain colored shirts, and now I can't study. So this person may go back and tell their parents, and their parents are going to say, are you tripping? What's wrong with you? What do you mean different people are wearing different colors? Their parents might even be asked to be doing assignments. Or it could be a professor at a university that's happening. It could happen to anybody. So you can go, now when I leave my house and I go out into the world, wherever I go, this phenomena is going to be co-created. And the person doesn't need any sort of degree or diploma, or they don't have to have any formal education. I was seeing somebody for a couple months who was a drug user, didn't even have a driver's license or anything, and I was paying attention to, they were a good person though. It wasn't a bad person. They were morally a good person. They would do assignments on me, and then even would pick me up after the assignment and stuff. So I began to see what was going on. I was seeing on the phone how the GPS would say, or it would show, they would pull into a gas station, and then 2 other cars would come in. So the person wasn't responsible for the gang stalking that was happening to me. They were just being gifted things, like, Home Depot cards or prepaid credit cards, restaurant discounts and stuff like that, all sorts of stuff that they can use. Now, for somebody who doesn't really have a steady income, or for somebody who just wants bonuses, that's a treat. All I got to do is wear this shirt and follow this certain person, and I can get extra money, and I can be financed. Okay, I'll do it. They might not necessarily be aware of the destruction that is happening to the lives of the individual that they're doing it to, because they're not there 24/7. Now, if you really begin to tell them, they still might not get it. The only people who would get it are the people who are doing it towards you on a 24/7 basis. They're listening to what you say on your phone calls. Those are the people who are more apt to knowing about, we keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that. You see how it's affecting him? Keep doing that, keep doing that, keep doing that. And they're looking to create a destructive type of environment that you're in. So people are losing their minds. There's people out there who may go get a gun and harm somebody because they're confused about what's happening. So now you have somebody who might go harm somebody, and an innocent person may get harmed. Or they may get on drugs. They may say, this is a bad thing that's happening to me. I have issues coping with this. I would like to take a drug to relieve the stress, or an alcoholic beverage. I think there's a lot of people who try to substitute that, or they end up on, somebody tells them, oh, you got a mental problem. Well, let me help fix your mind. There's something wrong with your mind. This isn't happening. Don't worry. This isn't happening. Forget about the guy right there who just got a discount card to follow you around all day wearing red. That's not real. So we want to get you on these psychiatric drugs to help you out, help your mind out. That's what comes up usually. So there's a lot of people taking psychiatric drugs who are seeing counselors. They don't have the appropriate people around them to distinguish this stuff and say, you know what, this is going on. There is something to this. Let me try to help you in a different way and come into your life and try to create structure and balance so you can get through this properly. That's what should be happening. So now the mimic effect, let me get back to what I was saying, the mimic effect. I can have a good friend of mine who has a certain description. They look a certain way, or they often wear a certain kind of coat, or they drive a certain car. So if that person is not personally doing assignments on me, or they could be doing assignments on me at sometimes, I can leave the area, and other people within the detail of their assignment will wear the same kind of coat, will have the same kind of, they will look the same sort of way. They will have the same sort of car. And they're not orchestrating this. It's not that these are these diabolical people who are purposely trying to come in and stalk me and oh my God, they're evil, they're stalking me, they're being asked to do this. They may be oblivious to it. Or if you explain it to them, they may know. So, that's going on. So you can leave your area and go around to all these other areas and be getting followed by people who look like the person and all this stuff. Or there can be a street theater going on to where you can be getting mimicked through street theater. Say you experience something where, you know, like a, I'm trying to think, street theater. Say you experience something that has to do with hands-on, like say you bought a cell phone. So you bought a cell phone from a certain store, and you go across town. Somebody may actually set up a cell phone booth where you're going and portray the act of somebody buying a phone. Now, to the average person, this is going to sound really crazy. They're going to say, that sounds like a paranoid delusion. That is happening. That is street theater. That is actually happening across the country. It's happening to way more people than people think. Street theater is going on 24/7 to somebody who's going through gang stalking. Now, a lot of people say, well, that's not harmful. How is that going to bother you? No, that is really not harmful. It's really not. But the constant display of this type of stuff happening around you 24/7, being followed by people wearing red and black 24/7. Most people who go through targeting, they experience the color red and black. So that's happened 24/7. 24/7, 24/7, 24/7, 24/7. Then the street theater. So that's visual. That's a form of visual targeting. Then you have audio. Like I seen something on the news where somebody was explaining how every single day people ride past their house and honk the horn, repeatedly honk the horn, honk the horn, honk the horn. So that created a disturbing effect to the individual who was going through it. And it repeatedly happened every single day. So now, if that person experiences cars going by honking the horn, and the majority of those people honking the horn are wearing a red shirt, now you mix the visual thing of being followed by people wearing red, mixed with the audio. And if this happened 24/7 to an individual, the disturbance of it goes up. So somebody said, oh my God, these people, they're wearing red shirts and they keep honking their horn every single day. Now, yeah, the person looks like they're tripping. They look like they're delusional, but this is orchestrated purposely to provide that effect. It's set up specifically so if you explain yourself and try to come clean with the people around you to seek help or to let people know what's happening to you, it's set up so the average person interprets you as being confused or delusional, or if they're long-term, what you call like a perp. The slang word in the target individual community is a perp. The perps hide behind that and say, yeah, you're mentally ill, or you're tripping out, or you're confused, or you're a drug addict. They want to mask themselves behind that charade to divert attention away from them. And they'll be following you, getting everybody around you to do this stuff. Here's a prepaid credit card. Here's a restaurant discount. Don't worry about it. Here's $40. Here's this. Oh, wear that shirt. Do this. Drive over here. Now, the technology factor, a lot of these individuals don't know where you are all the time. Through the app technology, it's set up to where when you come to an intersection, that person is shown on their phone where to go. So they know to drive past this certain area at this certain time. And you see that and say, my God, they know where I'm at all the time. Every time I go to a certain area or intersection, that person drives by. How do all these people know where I'm at all the time? What's going on? Now you're going to be tripping. But they know on their phone to do that assignment, then the nature and the detail of their assignment. Okay, so I got to drive past here. What else do I got to do? Wear a red shirt. Okay, look at the individual in a certain way. Turn my brights on. Okay, so now I need to turn my brights on my car and wear a red shirt and drive past at this certain point in time at this intersection, and that's the details of my assignment. So now the individual going through it, this is happening then multiple times a day, fluidly, by multiple people. That's the gang stalking effect. Remember, 3 or more people is a gang, so therefore you've created a gang stalking effect. So when people say they're being gang stalked, this is where they're going through. This is what they're going through, and it now works through multiple different facets. through stores, through people, through all sorts of association, watch groups, anything. It can network through anything. It doesn't have any limits. And so now it's this has been happening to me for almost 3 years. And so when it first happened to me, I didn't even know what it was. I had no idea in the world. I had never heard of gang stalking before. I think I heard of it one time a few years ago on some blog, and I saw it, but I didn't know. I didn't understand what it was. So I really didn't know. I had no idea what gang stalking was. When it first started happening to me, I was tripping. I had no idea what it was. I didn't know what gang stalking was. And so I had to go through the process of learning what it was as an individual going through it. And that was very confusing and disturbing. But once I got a handle on it, then I started seeing all the cars doing the brightening. And I started learning, okay, that's brightening. That's color coding. Then it gets more worse. I mean, at that time, it, more worse, if you can imagine. So I'd be walking down the street, and multiple cars would come, and a lot of them would come right in front of me like they were going to hit me and kill me. Then they would go away right before. And so I'm like, man, that's a serious assignment. Somebody's going to hit me and kill me and then pull, feint like they're going to do that and then pull away. I'm thinking, what if just one time I had been a drunk driver and not an actual assignment? That would have been out of there. Because these were big, I live in Michigan, and it's rural, and there's a lot of areas with no sidewalks where I live at. So I'm walking down areas where cars are going like 40, 50 and stuff like that. One time, it was a woman, man, she pulled right on the side, almost hitting the mailboxes, and just started mashing it, and got real close and pulled off. Like, she showed me this was an assignment for real. And so I experienced that over and over again, and then there became a period where I started waving at the cars. Or I just started waving at the cars and stuff. I went to Phoenix for a couple weeks, and I learned new strategies, and I came back with the concept of helping people to beat gang stalking. And that I spoke to numerous target individuals who went through gang stalking, so I learned a lot. I learned a lot from people who lived all over the world who were going through it, and I picked up on certain things that resemble each other. Like, okay, 98% of the people going through this were all going. It was really 100%. I guess I'm just trying to sound more liberal, but it was really 100% of the people. We all went through the same exact symptoms: color coding, street theater, the mimic effect, the brightening on the cars. Some people had it at a lower level than others. So there's some people who go through gang stalking and it's not as severe, but like I'd say like 80% of the people I talked to, it was pretty high. But I think mine was extremely high, And drugged, I had got my food drugged a lot of times. It seemed like when the brightening and the color coding and the street, it seemed like when I was doing better at getting through that, then that's when my food started. Like they were just like, man, we got to come up with a stronger distraction. So we'll put an element, and that's why I learned if you go to buffets, that won't really happen, But okay, again, coming back to the gang stalking, 2017, I don't know what happened, but now the mainstream news is admitting it's real. I just saw a news clip of a police officer who said gang stalking is real, and it's been going on, and it's just a technology factor now, to where people are using Facebook apps, and they're using different apps to do it, but it's been going on. The guy said on national television, gang stalking, it's been going on, what are you talking about? It's just now they're using more technology to do it. So when I saw him say that, it led me to believe, like, okay, he's not supporting that, and gang stalking is real, and they're admitting it's real. So are they going to be helping people? Like, is there going to be clinics that people can go into to get help now? That's one of the things that is crossing my mind. Like, what's going to come out of that one? But so suicide. There's a lot of people. I think it takes a certain mindset to commit suicide. Some individuals, for some reason, are more apt to that. Me personally, it's never crossed my mind, so I'd rather, like, something, I wouldn't, certain people have certain makeups. But when I heard people were out there committing suicide, I was like, man, that's crazy. That's really deep that there's people killing themselves. Everybody around them is telling them they're delusional, and so they're killing themselves because they can't get the proper support or help they need. Then there's people, again, who might go on to harm other people. They might go out there and seriously injure individuals because they're not getting the proper support, or no one's believing them, or they're just frustrated and they just want to, go out in the blaze of glory or whatever. I don't know, whatever it is. But now the mimic effect, I don't have a phone. Do I have a phone now? Now the mimic effect, I've been telling people for years, like in the news clip, the police officer, he was telling people technology is a big thing. And so anybody can get the technology. But with these phones, if you have a phone around you, you don't even have to be on. Like, I can be on the phone and say, hey, you remember Jennifer? Oh, yeah, I remember Jennifer. Yeah, man, Jennifer, blah, blah, blah. Oh, her hair was so wavy, and she had nice brown hair and all that stuff. Now when I hang up this phone and I go out into the world, now they're going to find some girl who resembles that to do the mimicking on me. Or they'll find somebody who fits the facial descriptions. That's a form of a mimic. Taking a step further, I don't even have to be on the phone with somebody. I can just set the phone down on the table. On most phones, there's an audio input so they can hear everything you're saying around the phone. So if I got the phone on the table, and I'm talking about some woman named whoever she is, or a friend of mine, a guy, it doesn't matter, that will be used as a form of the mimic. And there's multiple people who are analyzing you, looking to provide this effect. So if you see money's involved, like if people are getting all kinds of prepaid credit cards or whatever, I mean, you better believe somebody's going to have enough time to sit back and listen to what you got to say and try to figure out more ways to keep it going. So it's not a simple thing. People who go through gang stalking, most people who look at the person who's going through it, it's 10 times more challenging than you think it is. 10 times more. 10 times. It's not simple. It is stalking. It is completely 110% all the way it is. And the difficulties come in explaining to people what's going on around you, because a lot of these people don't care. First of all, you're dealing with a group of people who they've already been told. Somebody came in, gives them a story, and they say, "Here, give this homeless guy $10 to wear that red shirt. Give this other guy $50 to drive around. Every time Jameel comes outside, have him drive out around the corner for the whole day. $50 for the day, over 5 hours, and then give that guy $20 to do this." Pass out, and they'll give people phones. There's people getting free phones to do the assignments routinely. They get free phones, all kinds of restaurant discounts, all sorts of benefits. They get hooked up off the misery of the person going through it. Not just here where I live, it's going on in China. It's going on in Russia. If I was to get up right now and go to the Kremlin, it could very well be going on. I don't doubt it for a second. There's people, you can go from here to a different country and it will be going on. And people say that's paranoia. There's people on film. I got a guy who told me personally, I got a guy who told me personally there was people paying people to wear red shirts and follow me around with the brights on and all this stuff. And so I've heard it from multiple. I even had somebody who was a gang stalker. They said, Jameel, it was a woman. She emailed me and said, I saw your videos about beating gang stalking, and I've been doing this to people. I don't feel comfortable doing it anymore, but I'm scared to stop. And I said, well, we were emailing. And I said, well, how'd they get you to do it? She said, I was at a shopping mall, and a group of people approached me and gave me $100 in cash. And they told me I had to change my hair color red, and I had to wear these certain sorts of clothes and follow this man around. And I had to follow him with my brights on during the day and stuff. And I had to follow him around the mall, wherever he went, I had to follow him off and on. I said, okay. And she said, after that, the people would contact my phone through a smoking advertisement, a survey. And that's how I knew that was my cue to get my assignment. And so I said, well, if you don't want to do, I said, well, listen, tell me more information so I can use this stuff to help people. This is when I was really getting my courses cracking. And she said, I'm scared to talk over the phone because I know they're listening and I don't want them to do this to me. I said, that's deep. That's deep. You can't even talk over your phone about you not wanting to follow people around and all this stuff? She said, yeah. And I said, well, okay, well, why don't you, learn some more information and get back to me? And then she said, okay. And but we never talked again after. We emailed like 3 or 4 times. And so that was interesting that she got recruited into gang stalking people. She didn't even know what it was. She had to go online to figure out what she was doing. And so the people doing it, they're just being asked to do these assignments on people. And people, there's a guy, man. It was another news clip I saw. It's a man who, like, this guy was crying in the video. I felt bad for him. He was literally crying, saying how he couldn't even take his son to a tennis court without people. And in a news clip, you can see the people wearing all black. So as soon as I saw it, see, I've been going through it for almost 3 years. So when I hear somebody else talking about this stuff, or I see something, I know exactly what to look for because my mind's been trained to see it. So as soon as I saw the news clip, I said, yeah, of course. Yeah, I see what's going on. And so I felt bad for him. Like he can't even go out with his son and do the things he wants to do without this stuff going on. And so it's coming out more. It appears, I didn't even know what gang stalking was. And so a few years ago, I was under the interpretation, when it first started happening to me, I was under the interpretation, like, this stuff, you can talk about all you want, but no one's ever going to believe you. But now it's becoming more mainstream. Like, different areas of the world are beginning to become more vocal about what is happening, how it's happening. And so it looks like pretty soon there's probably going to be experts coming out, people who've been doing it for years, who are going to be like, yeah, I was behind it, I didn't want to be doing it, blah, blah, blah. They're going to have their own stories, and so people are going to be able to learn a lot more information. But I think when I came out with my stuff to beat gang stalking, like, no one had ever said that before. And a lot of people were confused. They said, what do you mean beat gang stalking? How do you, the people going through it were like, how do you beat gang stalking? So it's a psychological thing. It's a spiritual thing overall. It doesn't mean that gang stalking is going to stop, which it could. The first guy that I started giving courses to, he was in a bad position, terrible position. He was going through gang stalking every day. He was living in his house, basically hiding in the closet half the time. He was so scared. And I started talking to him, and everybody was telling him that he was delusional. And I got him to go outside and walk around, and I said, man, you got to go out to the park and enjoy yourself and start talking to these people and being social. You can't hide inside your house all day. And so he started waving at the people who were doing the assignments on him. Next thing you know, he started calling people out and asking people questions about it. He went through a rough ordeal. He had a counselor that wanted him to take prescription medication every day. He kept telling them, I'm being gang stalked. Gang stalking is real. There's nothing psychologically wrong with me. His counselors actually started admitting it was real too. I was kind of proud of him for, I was proud of him for that. His counselors actually admitted that we believe gang stalking is real. Yes, it exists. And so he got to a position to where I think he got off the medication or something, and then now he said the gang stalking. So he did beat it in actuality because it stopped. So that's interesting to see that. I talked to several people through it who were going through it because most of these people were stuck in a position to where they just couldn't function. And I had all this extra time on my hands to learn about it and find out about it. And I say, go approach these people, tell them your story, let them know what gang stalking is, yada, yada, yada. And so that's what they were doing. But that's what I keep telling people. When you go out into the world, like, don't run from it, don't hide from it, just face it, wave at people, all this stuff, interact with people. Don't let this stuff mess you up like that. But see, there's a lot of things I had to learn. For one is, avoid. You can get caught up in stuff. There's all sorts of certain tricks. The people who are doing it to you, they're gonna lie and do whatever they can to get out of it. They don't want to be held accountable for what they're doing. So don't get caught up in anything. Pay attention to this. Assess the people good. The average person doing this stuff is a lot of the people who enjoy it, they're going to have a coward mentality. Because it's fun, they think, oh, it's fun to pick on people, and I can hide behind all this stuff and do this, and nobody knows. It's a coward mentality. So when people get used to a coward mentality, or whatever like that, they don't want to face who they are and what they've done. So they're going to lie like hell. So you got to avoid getting sucked into anything. Go out of your way to get away from that stuff. But if you see somebody who is behaving like a good person and is doing assignments on you, you can speak with them and talk to them and try to become. That's what I'm trying to do. Right now, what I'm trying to do in my life is talk to people who I can work past this stuff with. So when I meet a woman and I want to have a normal conversation and a good dialogue, I don't have to worry about somebody coming along and saying, here you go, here's a card, here's a prepaid credit card. We want you to do all these different assignments and all this stuff and follow this guy around. That's one of the things I'm working on, is finding strong spiritual people who are down to earth and based. So I don't have to worry about being consumed with all this stuff, because it's much more difficult it's not as simple as what people think it is. Like, if people lived like this, if one person had to go through this for 3 days, then they'd get it. They'd get it for the rest of their life. Now, the spirituality of it is real. The color red is a lower chakra color, right? Fear, survival, and all that. Anybody who knows about the 7 chakras, right? So if you repeatedly show somebody red over and over again and it's stimulating fear out of the person, it's going to create a spiritual, fearful type of lifestyle. And the person's going to start displaying paranoia and displaying those type of activities. You got to work on yourself really spiritually. Meditation, different sorts of things like that. Get familiar with activating, telling the truth, throat chakra, the 5th chakra. The throat chakra is the 6th chakra, right? And then move up the 7th chakra. You got 7th chakra, the crown chakra, the pineal gland. And that brings an intuition, psychic ability, and all this sorts of stuff. Which a lot of people who go through the target set, a lot of times they don't want to hear about that. But being a spiritual person and getting into prayer, meditation, that's going to help you 10 times more. I'm excited right now because I've seen several people speaking about how gang stalking, the news is taking it, people are taking it much more seriously. People are starting to see this stuff is real. It's been like the police officer said, it's been going on. It's just now they got technology they're using for it. I've never heard anybody say that in my life on these clubs. And again, I'm coming from a background of esoteric research. So I'm somebody who studies ancient aliens and studies a lot of different stuff that most people would consider to be strange. And oftentimes it's challenging for me not to mix them in together, because mixing them in together creates confusion for the average person. It takes you have gang stalking, which is something that happens with itself. Then I have many other subjects that I like to work on, because I'm a spiritual person, so I have no problem talking about extraterrestrials. I have no problem talking about ET genetics in people. I have no problem talking about, astral projection. I've been into esoteric subjects for many, many years, publicly. And so none of that stuff bothers me. But then you have the gang stalking, which is real. You have people, it's real. People are getting paid to do these assignments and do this different sort of stuff. So when you watch my videos, you may come across both at some point. But don't get it confused. This isn't anything that, this is in reality. There's people walking around every single day paying people to do assignments on people, and it's causing a big problem in the people's lives. So don't get it, this is something that's actually happening. Now, the electronical stuff is real too. Electronical weapons. I've never seen electronical weapons in person. I don't know how they work. But I know they're real, though. I know there are people out there who can use electronical weapons on people. Matter of fact, there was a chess player named Bobby Fischer. And I forget who his opponent was. This is many years ago. And this was it was a Russian guy, and he beat the guy, and the Soviets were accusing that the only reason why Bobby Fischer beat the Russian guy is because people were using electronic weapons against the Russian guy. So electronic weapons have been spoken about for many years. I don't know that much about them, but I know they exist. I've never seen them. When it comes to the voice to skull stuff, I've never heard any voices. So I don't know if that's real or not. But I've talked to several people that claim that they've heard voices that were not their own voices. A lot of people will try to say that that's not real. I mean, there's been documents published that said that people have worked on this sort of technology, that it is real. So I don't know what to think on that one. I just know gang stalking from a day-to-day thing of the people around me being financed to follow me, wear these colors, use the phone apps to know where I'm at. That's what I know about. The color coding, the street theater, the mimicking. Those are the things that I've seen happen to me every single day for almost 3 years. So I'm familiar with it on a street level. What did I say? So there's no real way. I don't think there's any real way to discredit that gang stalking is going on and it's happening. One of the biggest things that people try to do is discredit the person. That's called an ad hominem attack, where we can't discredit the fact that gang stalking exists and it's going on, but we can try to make the person look like there's something wrong with them. And that can kind of hide the gang stalking a little bit. That's another tactic. And so there's a lot of personal attacks going on people. I've seen it happen to me numerous times, but there's a lot of people who will get discredited in many different ways. People will say, oh, this person's crazy or delusional or something like that, and they'll try to make fun of them and do all sorts of different stuff. Yeah, that's there to discredit the fact that they're being gangs. Of course, because the people behind this person being gang stalked don't want that to become wide known that they're gang stalking. So that's cool. Keep lying on the person, doing all this different stuff. That happens every single day to people who are being gang stalked. Disinformation campaigns and different sorts of stuff to make the person seem like they're mentally unstable, or they're making it up, or again they're a drug addict, or it's just a conspiracy theory. A gang stalking conspiracy theory. That's so if you go online, it falls under conspiracy theory. So now it's conspiracy fact. Conspiracy theorist is a disinformational term, from what I feel. I feel that you have conspiracy, then you have conspiracy. You can say, a bunch of people got together and decided to do this. That's a conspiracy. You're talking about a few different people. They're conspiring to do this or do that, whatever they're conspiring. Yeah, it's a conspiracy. Okay. But is it a theory or is it fact? Now it's conspiracy fact. Like that news clip with the police officer, he said, yeah, gang stalking is real. It's been going on. It's a threat. And, people are being bullied and all this stuff, blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah, it's a conspiracy. Now it's conspiracy fact. It's not a theory anymore. Now it's a fact. It's a difference. So just because somebody's saying something is a conspiracy, it doesn't mean it's not real. The news talks about conspiracies all the time. Every single day you turn on the news, it's a conspiracy. This group of people is doing this and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's a conspiracy. But is it a conspiracy fact or a conspiracy theory? So that's part of my goal has been, as I go through gang stalking, part of my goal has been to learn my best how to deal with it most appropriately. And you don't have to get into anything bad. You can just be living when you go through gang stalking, you're living your day-to-day life. You're not out there looking for trouble. You're just hanging. You can be hanging out, exercising. I like to jump rope. You can be hanging out, somewhere, wherever, just minding your own business. And people will come to you bringing this to you. You don't have to go, you don't go looking for gang stalking. I've never once in my life went looking for gang stalking. I've always had it coming to me. And so that's one of the things when people say target individuals gang stalking, say, you know, aren't you going to make it worse by talking about the internet? You know, why are you out? What do you mean? I'm a human being. I'm being gang stalked. How are you talking about me? What are you talking about? Make it worse. This is something happening to me 24/7. This isn't this isn't going to disappear whether I'm on the internet. You know what? Like, I can be in my house, or I can be at a friend's house, or I can be at a workplace and still go through gang stalking. Doesn't matter where you know, there's people, so it's unbelievable. I can't even believe it exists. That's one of the biggest, I've seen some really strange stuff, but it's still challenging for me. I've been going through it for almost 3 years. But it's really challenging me to believe that gang stalking is something, it's still, even though the news is admitting it's real now, it's still challenging me to believe it's real. It's like the people who never heard of it believe it more than I do. I talked to a woman on the phone, and I told her about gang stalking, and then she went and looked into it, and she said, yeah, it's real. But it still shocks me that it happens. It still shocks me that something like that could exist. I never would have believed. I looked at it like this: who would spend so much time and energy doing something like that? Like, what are you paying people money to wear colors and all that stuff? That sounds silly. If somebody would have came and told me about gang stalking before I learned about it, I probably would have. I would have been open-minded to it and been listening to it. But the degree that it's real, I wouldn't have believed it. That happens 24/7, and you get followed by all these different people doing all this different stuff. It would have been challenging for me to believe, but after experiencing it, now I know. Oh yeah, it's real. It's going down every day, every single day. And I'm somebody, I've videotaped it. I've had videotapes of people doing assignments on me. You know, I've talked to the people personally on many different levels who are doing the gang stalking to me. And I've gotten a good feeling for what's going on. One of the things I tell people, if you're going through it every single day to a high degree, a good thing to do is get off into nature, like clear your mind, and then come back to it. That's one of the things I had to do, was go out and be followed by numerous people in cars with their brights on every single day, wearing all these colors every single day. Every time I go to the gas station, when I get in there, there's people in there doing assignments on me every single day and all this stuff. And so what I had to learn was, okay, go inside the house and clear your mind. Or go into the woods and clear your mind, then come back to it. And then, so I would go do that. I'd create space. I call that creating space. I would create that space, get used to it, come up with different strategies, talk to the people who are doing it, all those different sorts of stuff, come back to it, and then I start waving at the people when they come in with the brightening, trying to be social with them. They would start waving back. Got to a point, at one point I used to have flyers. I had a website called Beat Gang Stalking where I give people flyers and all this stuff and tell them, the people who were going through it, I would tell them different strategies. If the person wasn't going through it, I would just tell them how it worked or whatever. And so my goal wasn't really to expose the gang stalking phenomenon, so to speak. It was more to help ordinary people learn more about it. Or ordinary people, but the average person going through it. So the ordinary person can learn more about the person going through it, so the person doesn't have to live a really extremely dysfunctional life. That there's still some options in life, yada yada. Because you got to keep in mind, these people are doing drugs. There's people committing suicide. There's people having horrible reactions to it. So just to stabilize your life in a normal way, that was my goal, is to help people do that. Just to have a stable life, just a normal life. And there's more people that it's happening. There's way more people right now that it's happening to. Every time I go on YouTube and I type in target individuals or gang stalking, it just keeps jumping up. There's more and more people every day that are coming out saying, there's people in China who are showing on camera the brightening, the mimicking effects of street theater. There's people in Poland, the UK, France. I had a guy in a third world country in Africa tell me he was going through gang stalking at some point. And this was a while back. But every single day, it's just numerous people just jumping all over the world. All over the world, just jumping with it. But other than that, I got some other stuff. Right now, I'm doing some stuff on extraterrestrials. And so most of the people who listen to me talk about gang stalking, I don't know how, most people listen to me talk about gang stalking, I don't know how they would look at that, but everything I say to gang stalking is real. I live it. I'm not making all this stuff up. But I do a lot of other esoteric research, other types of stuff. So sometimes I make videos about this. Other times I make videos about like the chakra system, natural types of healing, things that can influence people in a positive way from the spiritual realm. Matter of fact, I'll give people an example. I made this in another video, but I'll show you right here. If you go like this with your hands 75 times, show people a trick real quick. Then go do that 75 times, and then go like this. You can feel you touching your skin without you touching your skin. That's your aura. A lot of people out there practicing Reiki or whatever it is, healing. So the more you get in touch with these type of concepts, and you learn to expand your energy and your consciousness in other ways, it'll help you more dealing with anything having to do with what you call gang stalking or whatever. Like it's like a blind person. If you're blind, you learn to have other abilities. You learn to use your ears a lot better. You learn different sorts of tricks. If you don't have hands, you use your feet for everything. So if you're cut off through gang stalking in many different social ways, you go out, you're followed by people as sort of a distraction, you're going to learn to heighten other senses you have. So getting into spirituality and expanding those concepts, I think, is number one. That's number one right there. Get as spiritual as you can, and don't worry about the people around you who are gang stalking you. That's on them. What goes around comes around. I mean, don't even have that mentality of you. That's not even a healthy mentality to have. But just look at it like, don't worry about that. The universe will sort everything out. The universe is number one. The spiritual world is number one. The spiritual dictates the material world. So everything has its own way of dealing with everything. So don't even trip off whatever anybody's intention is to you. Don't even trip off it. The universe will make sure everybody is where they're supposed to be.